Hey there, Mark Satterfield here. Thanks so much for joining me. Got a new article on the LinkedIn newsletter. The link to get that is just right below this video. There's no opt-in required, so go ahead and grab that. Today's article is titled "Grandfather Invented the Motorboat Silencer, so why should you care?" My grandfather was, I guess we would call him a Renaissance man. He flew planes in World War I, went over to Paris and taught the aviators how to fly. He was a graduate from MIT, started his own engineering company, and back in the 20s actually invented the motorboat silencer. And this was during Prohibition, so he thought, well, this is something that I could sell to the police and the Treasury and the other law enforcement agencies. And so he went around trying to sell his motorboat silencer, and he was spectacularly unsuccessful. Well, that left another group of people that were also potentially interested in the motorboat silencer, and yep, those were the bootleggers. So grandfather made a freaking fortune selling these silencers to the rum runners who were bringing liquor down from Canada into the Northeast. Made a fortune and retired when he was still in his 40s. Became a gentleman farmer. And over time, that little bit of money, that little fortune compounded into a larger fortune. Now, there's a reason why I'm telling you this, and it has to do with marketing to the affluent. Look, there is no shortage of marketing advisors out there. There's, last time I counted, somewhere close to a gazillion of us running around. And the question winds up being, who do you listen to? Because there's a lot of people who really understand what they're talking about and are very good at what they do. Two off the top of my head are Dan Kennedy and Frank Kern. I mean, they are both outstanding marketers. You definitely should be following them. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who kind of have a theory about what works, but they're not really able to communicate to you the specifics. So I would say that when you are searching for advisors, what you want to do is you want to say, okay, to what extent is this person got a plan that makes sense for me, that resonates with me, not kind of, just something that I'm not going to be, particularly willing to do. And second of all, what's their perspective and background? Now, this all does link back to grandfather invented the motorboat silencer. And I preface what I'm about to say in the context that I'm a little bit different than a lot of the other people out there who are offering marketing advice. And if you've been, a member of my group for any length of time, that's the case. Now, but there's one way that I'm different that may not be as apparent. I know that when we are supposed to be marketing our services, we have our origin story, and the origin story is always supposed to be about the fact that I was a poor child who barely was able to put together 2 cents and struggled with drugs and alcohol, and then I found the secret to Super Jammer 2023 and my life turned around and now I live a life of luxury. Okay, well, the reality is that I don't believe that. And the further reality is that my background is probably different than yours. I didn't grow up a poor waif of a child. I grew up as the grandson of the guy who turned the small fortune into a big fortune. And the expectation was for both my sister and I and all my cousins that we would go out and we would be successful. But we grew up in an environment where we were interacting with very, very wealthy people from a very young age. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm not telling you this to brag on me, but I am telling you this because I have a perspective that is different than others that you may be listening to when it comes to marketing to the affluent. I think when it comes to marketing to the affluent, you need two things. One, you need some marketing ideas. You need a marketing system. And the reason I wrote the book, and I hope you've read the book, for goodness sake, I've been pushing it for the last 6 months. And the reason why I outlined a variety of strategies in the book was because there's not just one way of building relationships with the wealthy. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different strategies you can employ. The key is that you find something that works well for you, because otherwise you're going to quit. And if you quit, then the whole thing falls apart. But all of these work because not only did I do the research for the book, but I grew up in that environment. And I get pitched an awful lot of things. I mean, as you can tell, we got the very expensive sculpture back there. We got, look, got all the stuff that, people who are at my level of affluence have. So it's only important in the sense that I can tell you about what resonates with the wealthy and what doesn't. And I can do that because I live in this world. Plus, the strategies, which I think are very important. Now, the most important thing is you identify a strategy that works and that you do it consistently. Now, look, some people love to do cold calling, and bless their heart, you couldn't put a gun to my head. Some people like to write. I'm one of those people. So I use books, I use articles, I use blog posts as a tool for building relationships. Other people love networking. I can do it, but it's not my first choice. So I find that I tend to blow those things off more often than I go. But that's just me. My friend Carl down the street, who runs a very successful art appraisal company, he loves going to those things. That's his jam. But it takes him the better part of a day and a half to put two sentences together on an article. So different strokes, different folks. They both are effective. So what you want to do is you want to identify what are the opportunities out there for me to build the relationship. What does the waterfront look like? What are all the different avenues I can pursue? Because quite frankly, you're not going to want to pursue all of them. You don't have the money, time, or effort or patience. Lord knows I don't have that, and I do this professionally. So look, we're not asking you to do all of it, but select one or two that really work well for you, that resonate with you, that things you can do on a consistent basis. And I can't emphasize this enough. The whole key is consistency. It'd be great if everything worked the first time. That would just be awesome. But the reality is that it doesn't. It takes trial and effort. You got to modify things. So you find what works well for you and you do it on a consistent basis. And if you set up a system, hey, I tell you, you can be as successful as you want. But the key is listen to the right people. I'm not saying, again, as I said before, I'm not the only right person out there, not by any means. You should be listening to Dan. You should be listening to Frank Kern. You should be listening to other people that are really, really good. But there are a lot of charlatans out there, and I guess the best piece of advice is go with your gut. If it makes sense with you, if it resonates with you, if the person who's offering the advice seems to come from the world that you want to enter, if what they're saying is smart and thoughtful and understands that we are different and what works well for one person doesn't necessarily work well for another. And go by that gut. And if that gut says, yeah, this is somebody that is, that I think makes sense for me, then, follow the person. Yeah, then try what they do. And most importantly, and this is my last point for today, which is implement it. Look, It's fun to read about stuff. It's fun to watch videos. It's fun, I mean, I'm a marketing geek, so I mean, I get it. I love reading all this stuff. But as my dad would say, you cannot learn to swim by reading a book. You got to get out there. Do it in a way that is sensible. Do it in a way where, you're not risking the, family fortune. Don't put all your money on red, but get out there, build the website, create the free offer, promote it on Facebook, set a, marketing budget of, $10 a day, $20 a day, experiment with it, but get out there, play the game. Because if you play it and you monitor your stats, hey, you can be successful. Remember, it's all about message and math. Go figure. Mr. Callahan, who I swore back in ninth grade, going, I'm never going to use this math. Well, turns out, Mr. Callahan was right and I was wrong, because this is about message and math. Anyway, a little bit longer video today than I was anticipating, but hope you found this to be helpful. Again, the article is right below the video, so click on that. You can do me a solid, as always, by people that who are trying to market to the affluent. And let's define affluent, kind of generally. Let's define it as people who can afford what you have to offer. We don't have to be, just billionaires and millionaires, although that would be totally cool. But, we want to make sure that we're selling to people who have got money to invest in what you have to offer. And that's a lot of people. So if you know people that are trying to do that, who are getting frustrated, hey, turn them on to my stuff. I'd appreciate it. It's good for them, good for me, good for you. Okay. What else? That's about it for today. Of course, I'm going to have something cool for you tomorrow. And be on the lookout for that. So until then, this is Mark Satterfield. Bye for now.